Here's more wrestling news for July 15th, 2022, and we're starting this afternoon with WWE, as it's been 4 months since Big E suffered a broken neck after taking a suplex outside of the ring. Big E's recovery has been nothing short of miraculous, as he's been able to avoid surgery and has kept up a positive attitude, but the former WWE champion is still taking the situation very seriously. In an interview with TMZ Sports, Big E was asked about his injury and if he'd feel content if this turns out to be a career-ending ordeal. "Yeah, I think so. Honestly, my philosophy as a human being is learning to be content with whatever life brings you. I'm so grateful to not be in a wheelchair, but if I was, I would have to adjust to life in a wheelchair. That's just how I'm programmed." Like we said, Big E's recovery has been great so far, and it looks unlikely that the former WWE champion will be hanging up his singlet and pancakes for good, but should the worst happen, then Big E is okay with the incredible time he had in the ring. For decades, Billy Gunn has been competing in the world of pro wrestling, and while he is best remembered for his time in DX, he can now be found in AEW. Right now, Gunn is the leader of the Gunn Club on AEW TV, but that's not his only role with the promotion. Speaking during a K&S WrestleFest virtual signing, Gunn said that he is under 2 different contracts in AEW, as an on-screen performer and a coach/agent. Gunn explained the need for 2 contracts, saying that while as a wrestler he's classed as an independent contractor, a line Tony Khan has borrowed from WWE, working as a coach and agent also makes him a fully fledged employee of AEW. It was on last week's Dynamite that the Gunn Club turned on the Acclaimed, disappointing fans who enjoyed the 2 teams' dynamic together, and the 1999 King of the Ring is certainly keeping busy both on and off screen. In recent months, AEW has been plagued with injuries, and some of the company's top stars are currently on the shelf. Kenny Omega, CM Punk, Bryan Danielson, Adam Cole, and most recently Matt Jackson are all dealing with injuries, but not everyone is as hurt as the company is letting on. Ruby Soho had her hand slammed into a car door during last week's edition of Dynamite, but her injury isn't legitimate. On Wrestling Observer Radio, Dave Meltzer said Soho's injury is just for a storyline and that she was doing indie dates over the past weekend. Soho's hand got injured when it was slammed into a car door by Ty Conti, who did so on the orders of Chris Jericho to send a message to Ruby's friend Eddie Kingston. On this week's Dynamite, Soho appeared in a backstage promo with Kingston and Ortiz and sold the injury with a brace, but not everything is as it appears on AEW TV. Right now, Vince McMahon is under investigation for alleged inappropriate behavior with female employees, but claims such as the ones levied at the ex-chairman are nothing new. In 1986, WWE's first ever female referee Rita Chatterton accused McMahon of raping her, and with the new allegations against Vince, her name has been coming up a lot as of late. Speaking on this week's Cheap Heat Productions podcast, Chatterton spoke about a different veteran of the industry. Chatterton explained that Patterson was willing to pay her not to referee, causing Rita to threaten to sue the company, and the late WWE Hall of Famer had a bold response to this. "My very first match was a women's tag team match. I found out a few months later that Patterson told the women to break my legs and make sure I never wanted to get in the ring again. Luckily, being women, instead of doing anything to hurt me, they helped me, and that's how I got started. But it was crazy. It was a crazy world." We don't know quite why the first ever Intercontinental champion was so opposed to Chatterton officiating a match, and it's a shame that what should have been a historic career, the first female referee in WWE history, is now best remembered for scandals from some of wrestling's most important men. Back to the present, as WWE name changes are very common these days, as WWE likes for superstars to use a name only they control. WWE doesn't want a superstar to use part of or their whole real name, which they could use in another company, and now 2 more superstars are expected to change. PW Insider is reporting that James Drake and Zach Gibson of the Grizzled Young Veterans will soon be undergoing a name change. The reported plan is for Drake to soon go by the name Jagger Reed, while Gibson will be working under the moniker Rip Fowler. Some have speculated that the 2 will be joining Joe Gacy's faction, The Schism, which he announced during this week's edition of NXT 2.0. Gacy announced that the Dyad will be joining, a possible replacement for the term Grizzled Young Veterans, and we'll have to wait and see what happens with the team under new names. More from AEW as Night 1 of Fyter Fest closed out with Keith Lee and Swerve Strickland capturing the World Tag Team titles, but there was an irregularity in that triple threat tag match. The rules of the match were that only 2 men could legally be in the match at any given time, and upon closer examination, Strickland did not pin the legal man to get the win. To be more specific, Strickland tags into the match off Ricky Starks, while Matt Jackson tags off his brother Nick, and the referee Rick Knox acknowledged that Strickland and Matt are now the 2 legal men. The referee even counts not 1 but 2 pin attempts by Matt on Swerve, as well as a pin attempt by Strickland on Matt. Near the end of the match, though, Powerhouse Hobbs tags in Ricky Starks, despite neither man being the legal man in the match. This was the last tag in the match, as Strickland would pin Starks, despite Ricky not being a legal man. In theory, that must mean that the pin, and therefore the title change, is illegitimate, as wrestling has a long history of referees not counting the pin on the wrong wrestler. In a tweet, Tony Khan responded to the speculation of an invalid title change, saying that the referee's decision is final, even though in this case, it was the wrong call. Perhaps this is setting up some kind of angle, as the Young Bucks now have a claim to having unfairly lost the titles, but we'll have to tune into next week's Dynamite to know for sure. There was a time when Marty Scurll seemed poised to become the next big star of wrestling, but that's before his own past ruined those plans. As part of the Speaking Out movement, it was revealed that Scurll had previously had sex with a 16-year-old girl, which he claims was consensual, and this revelation ended his time in major TV wrestling and most indie promotions. Recently, former WWE superstar Santino Marella booked Scurll for his Battle Arts Pro Wrestling promotion, and in response to backlash, tweeted that everyone deserves a second chance to redeem themselves. Now Marella has deleted those tweets amid even more backlash, as Scurll's fate on the show is now in question. At this time, the British wrestler has still been announced for the August 13th event, but with a month to go before the show, there's still a lot that can change for Marella and Scurll. At Forbidden Door, Pac was crowned the first ever AEW All-Atlantic Champion, the newest title from Tony Khan's company. Pac has already been defending the All-Atlantic title overseas, with his first defense happening last Sunday, but not everyone is on board with the new championship. On the latest episode of his Grill and JR podcast, Jim Ross spoke about the All-Atlantic Championship and admitted he doesn't see much value in it. "I didn't understand creating the All-Atlantic title, but it doesn't matter what I understand. I'm not against it, but did we need it? I don't know that we needed it, but I also don't know how big of an asset it's going to be internationally for us." Tony Khan has said that the title is set to be defended internationally, giving AEW a more global presence after so far operating solely in North America. Ultimately, Tony Khan will decide what he feels is best for his company, and despite JR's comments, the All-Atlantic title is here to stay. And we're ending with WWE, who in December 2021 introduced their first ever NIL class, which featured collegiate athletes the company plans on molding into the superstars of tomorrow. WWE's mentality is to train athletes in their specific style instead of bringing in established names from the indie scene, but one NIL signee is in serious hot water. According to the O'Callaghan, the student-run newspaper of Oklahoma State University, NIL signing AJ Ferrari has been dropped from the Oklahoma State wrestling team over an alleged incident with a woman. Their report notes that a woman from Stillwater, Oklahoma has filed a restraining order against Ferrari, who is under investigation with the Stillwater Police Department over a reported sexual assault. WWE has yet to publicly comment on the allegations against Ferrari, but of course this is the last thing the company needs, especially right now. We'll keep following this case as more information comes out, but the career of one of WWE's NIL signings may have ended before it even really began. Well guys, that's our news for today. Please share your comments below. Also hit the like button, subscribe to our channel, and hit the bell icon to receive all notifications. And as always, thanks for watching.